Joining us, man on the street, is, wow, interesting story. State Senator, Republican, District 21, that's Cherokee and North Fulton, Brandon Beach. He's also a COVID-19 survivor. Now, he did lose weight since I saw him with COVID-19. We're going to be talking about that. Vernon Jones is with us, Democrat, balance it out here, from DeKalb County State Representative. And when Beach came in, they were already talking about the state budget and everything else going on. Jenny Beth Martin, who is the honorary chairman of the Tea Party Patriots for Action, also the founder of the Tea Party Patriots back in 2009. Jenny Beth, good to have you. But I saw Jenny Beth a couple of months ago on the Steve Bannon show in our studio in Washington, D.C. That was a pretty impressive studio we set up there.
It's a very good studio. I can't wait to be back there once D.C. is free again.
You know, I set that up in one day.
You did a really good job for one day, right? For one day, absolutely.
We set up Bannon called me Sunday afternoon. I had him on the air 10 a.m. at Monday, and we got the whole thing set up. Also with us is Ginger Howard. She is a national committee woman from the Peach State, Republican national committee woman from Georgia. Let's start with Beach here. State Senator Brandon Beach and I go back a very long time. Beach, I want to first talk about your COVID-19 survivor. You're excited about opening business. Tell us about what happened when you got sick. How long did it take? Give us a story.
Yeah, first off, thanks for having us, John, and it's good to see you again. I will tell you, first off, we are open for business. Georgia is the number one state to do business 7 years running, and we're going to continue that trend, and we are open for business. Back to the COVID-19, I got my test results on a Wednesday, and I was asymptomatic. I had a little cough, but I didn't have any other symptoms. I was good Wednesday, I was good Thursday, I was good Friday. I did an interview with Channel 2 on Friday. Mark Winnie called me after the interview, thanked me for the interview, and said, "Hey, you look great." And I said, well, if this is all the coronavirus is, I'm in pretty good shape. The next morning, I thought a Mack truck hit me. It was really devastating from Saturday to Saturday. I had fever, I had a cough, and I had a headache that wouldn't go away. And it was funny that as fast as it started, the following Saturday, I woke up and everything was gone. The fever was gone, the cough was gone.
It took you basically 7 days to get over it.
It was 7 days, and then it took me a few days to get my nights and nights and days straight, and then also my strength back. Because one of the symptoms of it is you lose your taste buds and your smell and your appetite. I lost 18 pounds, and I just didn't feel like eating for about 3 or 4 days. But now, then I got my appetite back, and I'm feeling good. And I was retested about a week ago Thursday. Got my results back. I'm negative, so now I can go tomorrow morning. I have a 9 o'clock appointment at Emory to give plasma to help someone. So
because now you've got the antibodies system, and you can't get sick again.
Correct. So I'm probably the safest person around the table. So
I know.
So I feel pretty good about that. And but I will tell you, as we go forward, I think we have to respect COVID-19 and the coronavirus, but we can't fear it. We've got to live. We've got to get back to work. We've got to be pragmatic and safe. And I think if we use common sense, and again, we're pragmatic in our way to go back about business, I think we can do it in a safe manner that's good for all of us.
One of the concerns that we all have, and of course, Vernon has brought this up, and so was Jenny Beth earlier, State Senator Brandon Beach, is that this has become politicized now. It's not like we're all in this together and everybody's trying to find a way out. Data is now showing the IFR, or the fatality rate amongst people that are not compromised or the elderly, is somewhere between 1 out of 1,000 and 2 out of 1,000 of those that have it, which is the same as the flu. But it's a political weapon. We're getting people dependent on the government. We've got blue governors in swing states keeping the economy shut down that tank things. A lot of people don't want football because people will be depressed. And a lot of us, like me, think now this is becoming just a political weapon to beat Trump.
Well, let me give you an example of reality. And I talked to a friend of mine who's in the restaurant business who wanted to reopen yesterday. And when he called to get his staff to come back, they said, well, if business isn't good enough, I won't make any money on tips. I'll go ahead and stay on unemployment for 14 weeks. I'm getting my unemployment. and I'll stay on unemployment for 14 weeks. So now, even though he wants to open his restaurant, he can't staff it unless he hires new people, and it'll take him 14 weeks to train them. So he's kind of in a situation where he wants to reopen, but his staff is saying, hey, if we don't have business, I won't make any money. I'm going to stay on unemployment. And I just got my first check, and I'm going to stay on that for 14 weeks. So that's an unintended consequence of government, relying on government to help us out, even though those people needed help, and I understand that. So, but now we need to get back to work and make sure they get back to work.
Vernon?
Yeah, John, I want to chime in on what my good friend, the Senator Beach, has just said. And by the way, I serve with him in the General Assembly. He's an honorable man.
You serve with everybody.
And he is as solid as Arabian Mountain.
He served with them. He was there with them.
Blessed.
Is there anybody in the state you've not served with?
But no, I mean that. I was fortunate to serve with Jimmy. No.
Maddox?
I did meet Governor Maddox, knew him well, went to his funeral. It's a good friend of mine. But I will say this, when you look at Georgia's transportation plan and the initiative, if you look at the tip of that spear who has us going in the right direction, Senator Brandon Beach, who brought forth that legislation. So I want to thank him again, and he should be in Washington. I can tell you that right now. He showed them how to do it up there. But he touched on something, and I said to you earlier, a lot of people are making more money now drawing unemployment than they were when they were working. Not all of them are abusing this, and I don't want to call it abuse because they were put out of their jobs, but when he mentioned that restaurant owner, I have folks in the business too, restaurant owners, they're telling me the same thing. Employee going to come in, they're not sure how many customers are going to come, and their tips are going to be down, and the wages are going to be low, and the owner of the restaurant can't pay or increase their pay because he's struggling himself. And so it does make sense to some. Let me draw this unemployment for the next 8 weeks, or 4 months, I should say. And so it's unfortunate, but he was right too. Georgia is open for business. Georgia's opened its doors so we can get back on our feet. And I applaud the leadership of Governor Brian Kemp, who's my friend and has worked hard. Like I said, he's not a show horse, he's a workhorse. And he's trying to strike that delicate balance between protecting people and their lives and at the same time putting America back, or putting Georgians back to work.
All right, so what about the demand side? I'm going to get to Ginger Howard, committee woman from Georgia, Republican. Ginger, one of the things I was concerned about driving here yesterday, finally got to Atlanta, got out of North Carolina, Virginia, where everything is shut down. We got Democrat swing state governors there. It's all politics. So I get to Georgia, I get off 85 at Swanee or 317. Does that sound familiar? Mm-hmm. So I'm coming down here and I'm expecting, not a lot of cars on the road, not a lot of restaurants open, not a lot of lights. I mean, I'm actually looking for something to stop and eat, because I hadn't had dinner or anything. And I'm in Alpharetta. I'm in Johns Creek, right? Mm-hmm. Big new city, beautiful lights on. Everything's closed. So we're open, but we're closed. Why?
Well, I agree with Brandon. I think a lot of people are scared with the employees being able to draw their unemployment, but also I think it has become political. And I have a small business, and I have a retail store that has been shut down since March the 18th, and that is very difficult. So I am opening for business this Friday.
What is your retail store?
A ladies' clothing store, Ginger Howard Selections. And you can shop online, gingerhowardselections.com. I'm always working, but it has been very, very hard. But I will say,
where is it?
It's in Buckhead.
So you have a women's clothing
yes.
store in Buckhead. Mm-hmm. Where is it? Like down the main drag?
It's on Peachtree Road between Piedmont and
I don't know just where that is. So you've been shuttered, right?
I've been shuttered.
You've been closed?
I've been closed.
But now you're opening tomorrow.
I'm opening Friday. May 1st, because our shelter in place goes through April 30th. So I decided I think I would wait till everybody can come shopping, and I hope that they will. I've had my shop cleaned from top to bottom. I'll just have me and one other employee working, but I'm nervous too. Are people going to be scared to come out? So I'll say that there is a demand, but then there's also some fear, and we have to, like Brandon said earlier, we have to take it seriously, but we cannot live in fear. And we opened back up the other day for nail salons and everything, and I know a lot of people thought that was a horrible thing, but I have to say I went and had my nails done and my toes done, and it was very safe. I wore a mask. Just one, the owner and one other employee was there. She made me stand outside until the other person left. She cleaned the place when the other person, she cleaned the chair, everything. She had her mask on. I had my mask on. She had gloves on. And people were lining up at the door. Can I come in? Can I come in? No, you have to make an appointment. So they were being very, very careful. So I think that people are really ready to get back, but there is some fear.
Jenny Beth?
Well, where I live, we have a toy store and a grocery store strip mall. So there's a toy store there. They stayed open for business. Because I think that people did not read the executive order from April 2nd, and apparently these people did. They still could do phone orders, so they did phone orders. They delivered toys, or you could go pick them up curbside. The landscaping store next to the grocery store was open for phone orders, and people were picking up landscaping supplies where I live. The golf courses were open, so the golf course, I've never seen it so busy on weekdays as it's been in the last few weeks. So around where I live, I noticed these things because I was watching around the rest of the country, and you couldn't buy toys. In Indiana, I heard from a friend of mine who is involved with Tea Party Patriots. They said that their big box stores were required to rope off the toy section and the landscaping section and close the local businesses. Well, you know what? If you wanted to buy toys on Amazon or from BarnesandNoble.com, you still could. They were going to be delivered. It just was hurting the local business people and the employees.
Exactly.
So I'm glad that people have found a way to innovate, to do basic minimum business operations and keep some things moving. A restaurant where I live, they have signs out that say, picnic here. And so you could go eat outside at their at their restaurant in the seating section, but do it outside, trying to encourage people to come on in and see what it's like. I did get a pedicure. I got my hair done yesterday, and
that's why you look so great.
Yes, it makes a difference, though. You know, you get to go out and do the things that are normal.
When you got here at like 7:30 today, and you showed up early and said, "I was just happy to get out of the house."
Yeah,
so
and the nail salon owner, she told me she's still not sure if she's going to be able to survive because they're not at full capacity with the social distancing.
They're still going to pay rent.
And I was going to ask Ginger, you've been shut down for 6-7 weeks. Has your landlord worked with you at all? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, that's good. All right, I want to open it up to some phone calls here. I got some people on hold. Kara, let's get to Sean in Newport News, Virginia. Sean, you're on the air with our roundtable. Senator Beach, State Representative Vernon Jones, Jenny Beth Martin, Tea Party Patriots, Ginger Howard, Republican Party of Virginia, and Godzilla. You're on the air.
John, all I want to say at this point is God bless Georgia. Thank you for leading the way for our country to get out of this mess. I have been in the position where I have suffered due to an economic decline. 2009, 2008, my wife and I both lost our jobs. We had a kid, pregnant. I wasn't even getting unemployment benefits. I had to stand in bread lines, literally had to stand in bread lines in the country, the United States of America. I had to go ask Samaritan House for help to pay my rent. I understand how difficult a decline can be. So I am just so proud, and God bless Georgia for coming through and leading the way for the rest of the country.
Well, thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Anybody wants to weigh in, 888-480-JOHN, 888-480-5646. If you want to weigh in, you can also text us at 757-692-1710. I know we had a couple of people on hold that have hung up, and I'm sorry about that. Let's get back to Brandon Beach here. When I think about Georgia in the summer, as you know, my son's a high school baseball player. One of the big tournaments is the Georgia Wood Bat Tournament, which is in northern. Where is it? It's right around this area, but it's all spread out. I mean, I've been here 2 years with him. We play from South Georgia to North Georgia. Like we played at Dahlonega High School. you play at all the stadiums in the area. Is that going to go on, or is that going to get shut down? Because that's got to be millions and millions and millions of dollars.
Listen, sports is big business, and youth sports is real big business. And you remember the days when I traveled with my son up to Cooperstown and all over the country with travel baseball. But it's going to be interesting to see how that works. We've already lost the Final Four. I also serve on the World Congress Center Oversight Committee representing the Senate. We've lost 83 conventions.
Wow.
The
The
big
Masters.
one was the Masters was postponed, and we lost that, and that's going to hurt April and May revenues.
Hundreds of millions of dollars.
Sports is it's big. Baseball, we haven't had the Braves, and so and it's going to be interesting to see what happens with SEC football and the NFL. They're going to have to make some tough decisions, but
who's going to make the Georgia decisions? I mean, because I got a lot of people asking me, because we're in that community. They're like, okay, Georgia wood bat tournament, biggest thing for high school, millions and millions of dollars, and it's all ages and high school from freshman to senior. So it affects across the Southeast thousands of people. When are these decisions going to be made?
Well, I think that we're going to wait and see how this works out with the governor reopening the state, and if we do this properly and again, as I said, in a safe and pragmatic way, I think it'll lead the way for other organizations like that to say, hey, we can do this, and here are the procedures we're going to put in place to make sure we do it in a safe way.
What about high school football?
John, let me, if I can chime in. This is Vernon Jones for your audience. The president has set some basic guidelines to lead the country. Then the governors have set other guidelines on where we need to go within our states. Local governments are beginning to make those same decisions. Everyone in Georgia, I believe, is looking for leadership at the top coming from our governor, whether it's sports, entertainment, or anything else.
From your
concerts.
From your governor.
Brian Kemp.
From Brian Kemp.
And I got a lot of confidence in him. He is doing the right thing. I keep reiterating, striking a balance between providing that public safety and getting this economy back where it was. What's important, we've all been educated now on things that we can do that are preventative from this virus. It's very serious, but we now are much more educated. Things didn't shut down all at once. Things are not going to open up all at once. As the confidence builds, you'll start to see others start to make these decisions. I think the NBA just recently said they're going to start doing things back again around early May. Mm-hmm. I think May seems like the date, 1st of May, when people or organizations are starting to, okay, we're going to start to open these doors, at least to a minimum.
Get back to normal.
Get back to normal, at least as it would never be back to normal, and many other reasons. That's a whole nother subject. Right. But the fact of it is, right now, people have been out for a while. They see what's going on. They've been educated. They know what they need to do now. Businesses are hurting. Individuals are hurting. And that American resilience, the American people we have known to come through crisis, we're going to come through this one. And I think that spirit and that leadership from our president and our governor and other leaders within this state, like Senator Brandon Beach and others, you're going to see that confidence from us. He and I were talking earlier, and he made a good point too. We as legislators, we need to get back to work. When they see us get back to work, other people start to get back to work. Mm-hmm. And if we don't work, we don't need to be paid, honestly.
Right. Exactly.
We don't need to be paid. But it's not about that. It's more about, look, how can we tell others to let's get back and try to make that pilgrimage back to where we were, and we're not doing it ourselves. Let's lead by example. Exactly. Let's lead by example. And so I think most of the members of the General Assembly are more than willing to go back. We're just waiting for the call from our leadership.
Yeah, I think I think the same thing should happen in Washington, Jenny Beth. I mean, the fact that the Congress isn't there, or they're sheltering in place at home. I mean, it means if they're afraid, everybody's afraid.
Well, if they're afraid, everyone's afraid. And one thing that bothered me when Speaker Pelosi let the House leave Washington, D.C. before the bills had finished passing, one thing that really bothered me is they have Article 1 responsibilities because they were elected. In the time of a crisis, Congress should be there and debate what they're about to do and make sure that the things that they are doing work. And perhaps we wouldn't have seen some of the issues we're seeing with the unemployment had they been there to talk it through a little bit more before they passed the bill. Time was of the essence, and still debate and contemplation before you pass a vote is an important thing to do.
Well, they would have actually had to get something done, productive,
Precisely.
other than give away millions and billions of dollars, trillions.
And I think that Vernon is right. President Trump and Governor Kemp have done great jobs leading the way, each within their own role. The president for the country, Kemp here in Georgia. And I'm looking forward to the legislative session getting back in session. I'm not used to Georgia seeing a session that goes into June. We're supposed to be done way earlier than that.
You guys need to get back to work.
Well, obviously this was a very unique situation. None of us in our lifetime have experienced this.
Right.
But sometimes you can go too far.
Right.
And I think it's the point now. We're at the point where let's sort of get back to work. Technology is coming to existence now. Zoom and a lot of other things, Skyping. Microsoft Team Management, a lot of employees now are using that at home. But people want to get back to that day-to-day flow.
I think to make a point about Vernon's comment there, the U.S. Supreme Court, you think about this, they've never let a camera in the courtroom. It's always been the artist that goes in there and does the sketches. They are virtually handling sessions now and depositions and so on and debate virtually. The U.S. Supreme Court, that never has happened.
All right, I want to talk about high school football. Look, I'm in Georgia. I lived here for a very long time, Brandon, and as everybody knows, I think I moved here from New Jersey in Mondale, was running against Reagan in 84, and I was here till 2010. How long is that? 16 plus 20. I was here for a quarter century. High school football's big, right? I mean, it's big in Georgia. Football practice, they keep moving it up. When I first got here, it was like third week in August. Then it was like first week in August. Everybody keeps moving it up. And you got a lot of athletes playing football in high school. They need their senior year. They get bigger. That's when they make their name for themselves. That's when they get that scholarship.
Correct.
Especially in a lot of the rural communities where that's their ticket to an education is playing football. Oh, what's going to happen? Let's start with Beach.
I think we will have football. It's very similar to after 9/11 when President Bush went through the pitch out at Yankee Stadium. It kind of gave America confidence again. And again, we've been number one to open business and the first one to open business, and I think we will have high school football. Again, I really have confidence in the Georgia citizens that they will be very safe opening up and very smart about how they go about getting out in public, and I think that will calm everybody, and then we will be able to go ahead and start back with football and things like that. Friday nights are important to the citizens of Georgia. Football's a big deal.
It's a huge deal, and people don't realize it. If you live in some areas of Virginia, it's big, some it's okay, but you live in some of these rural areas in Georgia,
Valdosta.
Valdosta. I knew you were going to say that because I went and covered.
What about DeKalb County?
Waycross.
Waycross.
I'm from Waycross.
Southwest DeKalb.
Some of these high school football
Waycross,
stadiums,
Georgia.
Waycross,
That's where I'm
Georgia.
from.
they draw 20,000 people on a Friday night.
It's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge, John.
Noonan, Georgia. My son played a tournament game in Noonan, Georgia, and I went and saw the football. I was just walking around, I saw the football stadium in Noonan, Georgia. I mean, it's like a college stadium. They got suite boxes and luxury suites and corporate suite, 3 tiers, and it's like you got to have it, right? Because it's back to normalcy. Well, I hope you guys can do that. Ginger Howard, let me ask you something. What is up with this Stacey Abrams? What is up with this
you
lady?
tell me.
Has
I'd like
she
to. I'd like
conceded
to.
yet?
No.
Now she wants to be
Now
vice
she's
president.
trying to be vice president.
How
Yes.
do you, so what the highest position she's held is what? State senator?
State
Rep-
legislature.
Y'all
State
know.
State
rep.
representative.
So how do you
Just
go
maybe,
from,
6 years at the
how do
most?
you go from state representative to vice president of somebody that's, not doesn't look like he's in the best of health?
I'm waiting to get my word, but you go ahead.
Go ahead, Vernon. I don't. It's very interesting to me. She has lobbied for this. She still says she's didn't lose the governorship. I mean, there's something not right there, but she has a following, and she has been really working it. So, what do you think, Vernon?
Well, first of all, and Brandon, you know this. This is nothing personal.
Right.
Let's just talk about her political experience. She served in the legislature just a few years. She was in the leadership of the minority party. I don't see any legislation that changed Georgians' life that she passed. What I see is the narrative from the liberal media on a national level. This was the first time I can recall where the liberal media got involved in a race in Georgia for governor. I've never seen this before, but that's because of the supportive backing of these liberal groups, these big-time liberal donors who have influence on the national network. Why would she appear on late night TV? For what? Who knows her? Nobody knew her before then. And so there's a group, there's that left far-wing group that's pushing her. And you know what's interesting? When they said that she literally almost won. No, she was 50,000 votes from just getting into a runoff. Now, everyone knows historically a runoff is totally different from a regular election. The drop, she would have lost by even larger.
Yeah, she didn't gotten hammered.
She never even made it to the runoff. And I'll say this too. This group called Fair Fight, that's why I spoke out too in my support of President Trump. This group she's talking about, and Brandon, you heard her talk about carrying a mantle on voter suppression. Well, when I came out and endorsed President Trump, she came out and endorsed my opponent, Fair Fight, this group that she founded. They are suppressing my choice. They're suppressing my vote. They're suppressing others who decide to have an independent thought, who's with conservative leanings. And to me, that's the real voter suppression, that you get browbeat if you come out and express how you really feel, your First Amendment. And so when I see this whole thing with her, to me, this is completely funded by this left-wing group. And let's talk about experience. What experience? She's never run a government. Matter of fact, I'm a little pissed off because I'm eliminated from the running. I've run a government, 46 different agencies. I've run one of the largest police departments there is. I've oversaw the elections. I oversaw HUD and many other agencies. But he's already said that he's going to select a female. So me as a black male that's far more experienced than Stacey Abrams and the others he's looking at, I'm completely eliminated from being looked at as a candidate for vice president. I'm better prepared than a lot of folks who've been vice president and president. I've actually run a governor, had more people in some states. And so I'm completely left out. That's the whole bigotry I'm exposing in the Democratic Party, because it's not a party of independent
Are you going to win
thinkers.
your race?
Oh, I'm just finishing my term, John. I'm not up for re-election. Originally, I decided not to finish my term. So I'm just going to finish my term. And let me tell you, I want to be clear about it. President Trump he and I haven't had a conversation. I don't want anything from him, but I'm willing to go anywhere, anytime to support him. I have a history of being independent.
You're going to finish your term, but you're not running in the primary.
Right.
You have a history of being independent. You also are one of the most well-respected Democrats in the state. As a conservative Republican from Cherokee County, when I saw that you came out supporting President Trump, it was like, he's one of the most well-known Democrats in the whole state, and people respect you.
Well,
So
I think they respect me speaking up on my convictions and me being independent. And John, you remember this, when I ran for United States Senate, Harry Reid and Chuck Schumer, they hated the Democratic Senatorial Committee. They did not want me to win.
Oh my God, they went
I was
bananas.
so far ahead of Jim Martin, who's very liberal left-winger.
They threw everything at you.
They threw everything at me.
Nationally.
Everything at me.
Because they knew you were way ahead of Martin, and they knew you were going to win. And I said at the Beacon, if you were the nominee, you were going to be Chambliss. Chambliss was tarnished with.
Well, he was to the left of me on immigration. He was for amnesty, and I wasn't.
Chambliss went to the Republican convention in, I forget where it was, Macon or something, and Savannah.
It was Macon.
Was it Macon? And he got booed.
Yeah.
He got booed. I was there.
Yeah.
I was a delegate. He got booed off the stage
Yeah.
for doing the footsie with the
But-
gang of eight or whatever he did.
You know, I voted
Remember
for
that?
George Bush back then. The Democratic Party used that against me. Here's the bigotry, too, I want to expose. Zell Miller, I served on the 4 governors, including Zell Miller. When Zell Miller came out and endorsed George Bush and actually spoke at a Republican convention, he didn't get censored by the Democratic Party.
No.
He wasn't called an embarrassment.
No.
He wasn't attacked like I was attacked.
No.
Jim Marshall and John Barrow, Democrats who were in districts and they were voting very conservative, but the Democratic Party gave them a free pass. Oh, well, they're conservative-leaning districts. But when I do it,
Congressman Deal.
that's exactly right.
Congressman
So,
Deal from Gainesville, right before he became governor. I think he changed in '94 when Gingrich took over. but he never got any flack, and he voted
Sonny Perdue.
Sonny
Sonny
Perdue.
Perdue.
He was a
Yeah, you
Democrat.
can go on down the line, but
But
me.
see, you, because they were afraid that you were going to win, beat
No,
Chambliss.
here's what they're afraid of. They're afraid of an independent thinking and conservative leaning black man. They're afraid of that in the Democratic Party. They don't want me to think for myself. And the Democratic Party is being run by plantation owners. And those who won't speak out about it, they are plantation workers. And you know what? I have left that plantation, turn the lights out, give that room to somebody else. I am going to hold my ground. I am going to, if I'm an agitator. Yes, I'm an agitator. Yes, I disagree with my party because the party left me. I didn't leave them. Try washing some clothes without an agitator. You end up with what? Some dirty, wet clothes. All right. And in my case, I am going to be on them in and out. And I'm so glad I'm going back. And Senator Beach, I don't know if you know about this, but I was attacked by a transgender because I supported the legislation's co-sponsor of illegal immigrants being reported to ICE if they committed violent offense. And I have no problem, let me tell you, with the gay community. I support the Constitution, which brings equality and equal protection to everybody. I happen to be for traditional marriages, but that's just my opinion, and I can feel the way I feel like they feel the way they feel. But I was attacked for signing or co-sponsoring a bill on immigration, and when this transgender person came to me at the legislature, was just wearing me out and had the nerve to say being black and being transgender the same, we have to deal with the same issues. I had to say, hold on, partner, right there. Stop it. You can be what you want to be based on your emotions. I can have an emotional feeling that I want to be white, but it's not going to happen. I'm sorry. So from cradle to grave, I'm going to be black. I can't change that. Don't want to change that. I support people being protected under the law. I've never discriminated against anyone, regardless of their orientation or race or whatever. I will say this, though. Don't compare gay rights to civil rights. They're not the same. And so, again, I'm for equality. I support, I passed the first local legislation in the state of Georgia, probably the first, that provided for domestic partner benefits.
But you're not running for re-election.
This is a much bigger.
But you're just out. And so you're going to be. But you're staying in the Democratic Party.
Well, see, John, like I said, the Democratic Party left me. I didn't leave the party.
So are you going to become a Republican?
We need to introduce you to Brandon Starko with Walkaway.
I'm gonna continue to be who I am. Because let me tell you why. You have a lot of Democrats have gone into the Republican Party, and you can look in the Republican Party. Like someone said earlier, I'm much more conservative than a lot of Republicans. So it's really not whether you're Democrat or I know there's that perception, but day in and day out, Senator Beach is a Republican. I'm a Democrat. I bet you we agree on 95% of the same things. I don't have to be a different party. He doesn't have to be in a different party. It's like thinking-minded people who in the center who want to address issues and not get caught into partisan politics, far left and far right. Get things done.
Like build roads.
When I was a chief executive, when I dispatched my police and fire rescue and sanitation department, we didn't ask what your party affiliation was. What we wanted to do is provide you customer service. We wanted to increase your quality of life. And so that's why I go back to Senator Beach, and we look at transportation in Georgia. That was a good bipartisan bill.
Well, let's get to that. Let's get to infrastructure. Bring Senator Beach in here. The president talking about a massive infrastructure bill, put people back to work, transit dollars. What do you think of that, Brandon?
Well, I think it's a great idea. As you know, I'm passionate about transportation. I serve as chairman of the Transportation Committee in the Senate, and I was on DOT for 8 years. I love transportation. I think this will reignite our economy. But I will tell you, the only way I will support this from the president is if he will block grant that money back to the states with no federal strings attached. Because if we have to go through the federal process, it's a 5 to 7 year process to put a shovel in the dirt. We have to block grant that money to the states. We can set up a system that tracks the dollars and reports back to USDOT. But the key is we can't go through the federal regulations. I mean, I want you to think about, he's the first president since Eisenhower that's even talked about infrastructure, President Trump, number one. Number two, I think he realizes that we need to cut the federal bureaucracy out of the picture. He is the one that called Governor Deal when the bridge burnt down on I-75-85 connector and said, don't worry about any environmental studies, don't worry about any federal red tape, get that bridge reopened. He sent us $10 million. We reopened that bridge in 6 weeks.
Yes.
We can do it. if we get the federal
Because there was
government
no
out of the way.
Bureaucracy,
Oh, look.
red tape.
Listen, from 1956 to 1970, Eisenhower, through the Eisenhower interstate system, we built 46,000 miles of interstate in 14 years.
It's hard to imagine.
It would be impossible to do that today with the
Yeah.
federal bureaucracy and the federal red tape and all the obstacles in the way. If we can get that money block granted to the states without the federal regulations, we can get projects working immediately, put people back to work, and address our aging infrastructure and the lack of investment in our infrastructure. Don't forget, when Eisenhower built the interstate system, he built it for 200 million people. We're at 350 million. We are at capacity. We can't have any more 18-wheelers on our interstate system in certain areas of our country. We have to look at new infrastructure investment.
So are those also going to create jobs, or are we going to really
No,
have shovel-ready jobs? Not
If
like
we block grant the
Obama's
money
jobs?
back to the states and we get the state DOTs involved, we can get projects done immediately, get jobs created, but also, is important, get our infrastructure
and get the
built.
money actually to do what it's intended to do,
Exactly.
rather than pay for the federal regulators to go and double and triple and quadruple check things
And then
for
say
8
you're-
years
No, listen.
before you can
upsetting
build a
some
road.
world
It costs
farm or
at least 30 to 35% of the project is bureaucracy,
It's
to your point.
And John, you know, a footnote to that. I serve on the transportation committee too, and I've ran a transportation department as county executive. What this president has done, not only when he talked about bringing those block grants back, but the president has done a lot of removing those regulations. You know, drilling. Look, fish don't have to go to work; people do. And so when he came about allowing us to drill in certain areas where before we were prohibited from doing it, that made a difference. When you look at infrastructure in this country, that's a big Democrat thing about infrastructure, right? Well, why are they fighting him on this? They should be joining hands and not wait until we get in a recession. Oh, well, we're going to put people back to work because we're in a recession, like the previous administration with the road project recovery program. This is something that's already needed. We're doing it in other countries. Why aren't we doing it here? See, that's what gets me. We're building roads and bridges in other countries, and we're not doing it right here on taxpayers' dollars, and we're not doing it right here at home.
And I can tell you, President Trump has the opportunity, in my opinion, to be the Eisenhower of our generation and really become the infrastructure president.
John Fredericks Radio Network, good to have you with us. We've got a great roundtable here. Ginger Howard, State Committee Woman, Republican Party of Georgia. Jenny Beth Martin, she's the founder of the Tea Party Patriots Group 2009. Vernon Jones, Democrat State Representative, DeKalb County, Brandon Beach, District 21. He's got a primary challenge. We're going to talk about that at the end. Vernon Jones, he's got one too, but he's already said he's out at the end of this term. As predicted, new polls just out. Trump losing now to Biden. The last 2 weeks, his polling numbers starting to tank. Ginger, I think the president, I said this earlier, there's no bigger supporter of us than me. I think he's got 2 weeks. I think he's got to fire Fauci. I think he's got to fire Birx. I think he's got to get him off TV. The clown show that's going on in the White House communications department is nothing like I've ever seen. I like Kayleigh McEnany. I hope she can straighten it out. I think, Mark Meadows, I think he was a good choice for chief of staff. But right now, this thing is running amok. These press conferences have become a liability to the president. It's like a zoo in there. Stupid questions, gotcha questions. People like me have been locked out of it because the WHCA, which is a corrupt organization, controls it. They control the seats. They throw everybody out because of COVID-19. So the other thing, Ginger, I mean, you're involved in party politics, and Jenny Beth has been involved. So is Brandon. For the life of me, I mean, Birx and Fauci are in essential administration government, right? The fact that they could just run and go on any news network they want and say whatever we want, there's no coordinated effort. So Pence says something on Friday. Dr. Birx with the scarf, the real estate agent, runs over to George Stephanopoulos on ABC for the Sunday show, disputes everything he says. The president gets up and says something. Fauci, 10 minutes after it's over, is Ubering over to CNN so he can contradict everything he says, and people are looking at this and they're losing confidence. It's becoming a clown show. I think Trump's got 2 weeks, and Jared, I said the same thing to him. You guys got to turn this thing around if you go into the end of May with 32, 35 million people unemployed, Trump's going to lose. I don't care how bad Biden is, basement, tales from the crypt, his wife doing the talking. I think he's got 2 weeks to turn this thing around. People got to get back to work. Ginger, fire Fauci.
Well, I think that President Trump is a businessman, and I kind of have to agree with you that I feel like every single day of these task force press conferences, why do we need one every single day?
Stop.
That's just my opinion,
Yep,
my humble opinion. Stop with that. And President Trump is a very smart man, and he does have some good advisors, but he himself has the right instinct about business. And businesses and employees are ready to get back to work. It is time to put this country back on the path of the economy that we had before. So I agree. May, it's time to get people back to work slowly but surely, open up the economy, and let Trump be Trump.
And take a leadership role
But
and get
that's
these
my
two
point.
doctors who are lifelong Hillary Clinton bureaucrats basically are running the government. And the messaging that people are getting, it's hysteria, it's fear. I was done with Birx, who, the whole thing with the scarf. I was done with Birx when, after Pence said, hey, you know what, we can get by Memorial Day, going into the summer, we get everything back. People are going to feel good about themselves, get back to work. The next day, she's on Stephanopoulos or some Sunday show saying, well, I think we're going to have to be social distancing really through August. I don't really think we can do any of that, what he said. I mean, it's just like, take what the vice president says, take water, dump it on it, and make everybody go back home again. How does that make sense?
I agree. And remember when President
Who
Trump said
elected
by
her?
Easter he was hoping that we would get
I am
back and going,
sick
and
of these
people
people.
got just that's. I agree. I agree.
And I would tell you that I think the smartest guy in the administration right now is the Treasury Secretary, Mnuchin. I think he's done a great job. He's rolled out a program. He started a Washington program and has it implemented within 30 days with the PPP, getting it out there and getting the money.
Of course, it also got abused.
Well,
by
but he's,
J.P. Morgan.
well,
and
they had some
gangster
problems, but I think
bastards.
they got that worked out and they're getting it back. And I do think he instills confidence when he's on TV from the economic standpoint.
When it comes to any of the administration officials, except for the vice president, the fact is we voted for President Trump and for Vice President Pence. Those are the people who we cast our votes for. We didn't vote for Fauci. We didn't vote for Birx. We didn't vote for Mnuchin. And Trump has good instincts. He needs to trust those instincts and lean into the instincts. And frankly, I think the thing he ought to be trying to do is figure out a way to do, if we cannot have a real live in-person rally, then find a way to do a virtual rally and let him see feedback online from the people who support him and are his base, rather than getting the feedback from the fake
I
media.
love that.
You're right. Let Trump be Trump. I mean, his instincts. Let's take his tweets from a week ago, right? So he tweets out, liberate Virginia, liberate Michigan, and liberate Maryland, right? He sends these 3 tweets out. That was his instincts, right? Because people like me
Right.
were pissed off
Right.
about this whole thing. So he's like, you got to get free, you got to get liberated. This is ridiculous. Then Dr. Birx runs into him, and then Brian Kemp opens Georgia, and then he blasts Brian Kemp and then publicly chastises him at the stupid press conference. It's like, you just said, liberate these states. This guy's liberating it, and now you're running and you're trampling on the guy that's had the courage. Look, if this is a disaster, and as a friend of mine said, you go to Georgia and they open it up, there's going to be body bags in the cul-de-sacs. Not going to happen. But if that were to happen, okay, then that's on the governor, right? But the governor has taken what he said. He's liberating Georgia to get back to work, to be the leader, and the president chastises him after sending those tweets out. I think that's why he's down in the polls right now, and it is a White House communication debacle.
John, here's my perspective. And for the audience, again, this is Vernon Jones. John, look at when the president was running. The media laughed at him, didn't have a chance of winning. Nowhere in the polls. Look how many senators and a governor and congressmen and others that he beat, including the former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Trump is going to be Trump. Nothing's going to stop it. Those who are supporting Trump are with Trump regardless. What I like, though, about Brian Kemp, He showed a streak of independence. And that's good for Brian and Brian's reelection because all politics is local at the end of the day. But I think President Trump and Governor Brian Kemp, they're going to be on the same page when it counts. They're going to come together. But this we have too much time, although it's not a lot of time. Anything can happen. Let me give you an example. Who expected the way this economy was humming?
He's got 2 weeks.
Okay, but the way this economy,
that is happy talk.
John,
I am ringing the bell here.
I know.
President Trump has got 2 weeks to get this thing turned around. Every poll now, and I know
John, the polls are only as good as it is that particular day. We didn't expect this virus to take place. We were humming. We were humming in this economy.
35 million people on unemployment. There's not an incumbent in America.
They're not blaming. I just don't think they're blaming President Trump for that. But then, too,
doesn't matter who they vote for.
But I think if they had to look at between,
you're going to vote for change.
But they're not going to vote for Joe Biden.
And he's the only guy on the ballot.
But that's my whole point. They know that Joe Biden, he's a disaster. And let me say this, because I have family members who've had to deal with dementia and
you think he has dementia?
I don't know. I think there is something there.
Tales from the crypt.
And what really bothers me and disturbs me is that if you got to hide this person in the basement and he can't even talk, he has to have his wife to talk for him. People don't care about Joe Biden and Joe Biden's help. These are political hacks. These are predators, and they are taking advantage of a person who really has some challenges here. And I think that's going to backfire. You can't hide this. I think he's getting worse. He's not getting better. He's getting worse. Can you imagine at a debate?
Yeah,
what's going to happen? It's going to be forced. Can you imagine him saying anything?
These Democrat governors are going to continue to tank the economy, scare us with hysteria, so we have some kind of.
I disagree. I tell you what, John. I bet you this. I say he 2 weeks will not make a difference. If I'm right, you give me. I like Dunkin' Donuts. You like Krispy Kreme.
I don't want to make that bet because I want you to be right. I'm going to go around the room here and get everybody's closing opinion. The only solace I take is my wife Ann, who's I've been with, as everyone knows, a very long time. Who we were there during the whole campaign. We were there in Trump Tower in the final days, and there was only a handful of us that actually thought he was going to win. Us being one of them, and you guys.
They won.
Right, there were not a lot of, like when I was in Trump Tower at the headquarters that last week doing my show. Everybody in there from the RNC had their resume set. They were out. My wife said something the other day that gives me solace. She said, "Look, we were there. Nobody thought he could win. He only won because of God. God put him in there."
I totally agree with
and
that.
She said to me, God put him in, and John, only God can take him out.
Amen.
Not Joe Biden.
I agree with your
and
wife.
not the New York Times. If God wants him out, God's going to get him out because he put him in there only. All right,
I agree with your
that's my
wife.
solace.
That's
right?
what I'd say.
That's what I get to bed with. Only God can take him out.
I totally agree.
So
He sets up kings and deposes them.
All right, so Ginger, I say 2 weeks. I think he's got to turn this thing around and get people back to work. And we got to get a consistent message. What do you give his chances now?
In 2 weeks or right this minute?
Both. Analysis.
I believe he's going to win. I believe he is going to get this economy back up and rolling. He's a businessman, and he has good instincts, and I believe he's going to turn this thing around. I really do.
Jenny Beth Martin?
Well, I think he's going to win re-election. I'm going to make sure that we do everything we can in our super PAC to help him do that. And it's an election, so I never, ever take anything for granted. It's not like they just give it to you. He will earn it, and he knows how to campaign, and he's going to continue to be president. But it's not. He's still going to have a real campaign. This is not going to be easy. And restarting the country and opening our communities, everything we're going through right now, it's going to be one of the hardest things we've ever done. And you know what I'm talking about. It's going to be hard for 30 million people.
Vernon Jones?
John, I think we've hit the bottom. I think now you're starting to see us come back up. Mm-hmm. And as long as we're progressing, going upward, that's in Trump's favor. And people are going to be comfortable with that because they're going to say the country's going in the right direction. I'm getting my job back. Mm-hmm. I'm opening my business up again. And I'm going to stay with the Trump change and not the chump change. Mm-hmm. All right? The Trump change and not the chump change.
All right, Vernon.
Brandon
Beach?
Well, 8 weeks ago, I went into a restaurant, and it was a 30-minute wait, and this economy was just, really on fire. and it was because of Trump's policies. I mean, I think one thing Trump realizes is the government doesn't create jobs, the private sector does, and it's through less taxes, less regulation, educated workforce, infrastructure investment, good trade deals that level the playing field, and I just think that he understands how to create jobs. And I think that he needs to get back to his economic policies, and when he does do that, and to Representative Jones's point, I think we've hit bottom. It is time now to get moving, get jobs recreated, and reignite this economy, and there's nobody better to reboot this economy than President Donald Trump.
Brandon Beach, primary re-election, renomination campaign. When's the vote?
June 9th.
How do you look?
Well, I mean, I think we look good. I mean, I've got an opponent. He's never passed a bill. He's been in the legislature 8 years, never brought a dollar home in the bond package or in the budget. I've brought home $90 million of infrastructure investment to District 21. I'm a very territorial guy, and I want to make sure that we're getting our roads and bridges built in the district. Got $25 million for a technical college with Speaker Pro Tem Jan Jones. And my opponent's a nice man, but he's never done anything. He doesn't have any horsepower. So I think we'll be okay. I think the citizens of the 21st District want results instead of rhetoric. So we're going to continue to let them know what we've done and what we've accomplished. I'm the conservative candidate. I voted for 15 tax cuts. I sponsored SB 346, which cut 7 regulations off transportation projects with state funding. I voted for the heartbeat bill. I got the NRA endorsement and in pro Second Amendment. So, and we get things done too. So I think we'll be okay. But it's, I will tell you, these absentee ballots. My last race, we had 480 absentee ballots for District 21. We've had 7,500 requests for District 21. So it's a whole different game with these drop boxes and so on. So
it's a drop box? Don't you have to mail it in?
Well, you can mail it in or you can go put it in a drop box, from what I've been told. So it's going to be a different challenge. And again, with the incumbent by my name, if people are mad with...
How do you prove, who did the ballot if it's a drop box?
You've just it's an absentee ballot, so you've got to sign to request it, and then when you turn the ballot back in, you also have to sign.
And it's got to match.
And so the signatures have to match.
Okay, so there is some in Georgia. There is some integrity of that. I have to say one thing now. Being in Virginia, I didn't realize this how spoiled I was in Georgia. You guys have the best party nominating system anywhere in America. You guys have figured it out, and that is open primary voting, no conventions. Virginia Republican Party has conventions. It's destroyed the party. They're horrible. No nominating conventions, open primaries, but you got to get 50%, and then you got to go to a runoff. And if you vote in one primary, like the Democratic primary, you then can't come back and vote in Republican runoff,
right?
Which stops the shenanigans. You guys have got it figured out. You guys have best nominating process anywhere in America.
And in the general election, you still have to win by 50% plus one, which is why Stacey Abrams, she didn't even come close. She didn't even go to a runoff. And that's
right.
a big in Georgia.
So in the general, you got to get 50%, or you get a runoff. It's a great process.
In Georgia, people know that you have to. If it's close, you're going to a runoff. The people who pay attention to politics know that it wasn't that close for her.
All right, we're out of time. I want to thank my great roundtable. Brandon Beach says he's going to win June 9th, right?
Hope so. Yeah,
all right,
June 9th.
Brandon Beach is going to win.
Vote
Vernon
Beach.
Jones. I want to thank Vernon Jones for being with us. Good to see you. I want to thank Jenny Beth Martin, who was a trooper. You've been here at 7:30. Thank you, Jenny Beth, for being with us. Tea Party Patriots. And Ginger Howard, State Committee woman, Republican Party of Virginia, opening her business again on Friday in
Yes,
Buckhead.
come shopping. Ginger Howard Selections, Friday.
I'm going to have to go down there and just stop in and send a picture or something.
I'll give
to
you a
my
glass
wife.
of champagne.
Oh,
We're
then
going
I'm
to celebrate.
definitely going, right? All right, thanks for being with us. You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network.